Welcome everybody to the Clean Finish Wrestling Podcast. We back, baby. I've been away, just living life, parenting and family and work and all the rest of the other. I was gonna say boring stuff with my own family. Yeah, why not? Boring stuff with my family, work and things have gone in the way, and it's been a real hindrance on my wrestling podcast and wrestling watching in general. I'm a little bit annoyed by that, but we back, and we're here, and I'm making time for this again. It's only a short 5-week break. I think that's fine. That's fine. To all my viewer, because let's be serious now. There's not many of you here. I'm back to doing it. We're going to talk about SmackDown. We're going to talk about Raw. It's boiling hot in the UK at the minute, so I will be rather sweaty under these lights. It's not going to help, but this is the love I have for wrestling, so I'm just going to do it anyway and get hot and sweaty. So why not? So yeah, without further ado, let's talk about it. As it's the first time I'm back doing this after a few weeks, 5 weeks or so, I'm going to get straight into it. I'm going to do a quick run through of SmackDown. I was away, so I didn't get to fully absorb what was happening, but from what I saw from it was a pretty fantastic show. We had Gunther versus Cody with Sami Zayn as special guest referee for the World Heavyweight Champion. Kicking off the show, so you know it's going to be something special or some kind of tomfoolery is going to go down. Match itself was great. I really like Cody and Gunther. Like they had the Night of Champions thing a couple of years back, and the match was an absolute banger. And I'm really enjoying this feud. The two hard hitting wrestlers, lovers of the business, really going at it. It's just really fun to watch. And the addition with Sami really mixes that up. Sami is in this grey area of is he a heel, is he a face? No one really knows. So it's interesting to see. Again, I think he got a bad rap with the whole Trick thing. Bad person to put him with in terms of like the fans were so hot for Trick. It makes sense if Trick was a heel, but that's not how things played out. So Sami's addition here is nice. He's that kind of he taps into the fact that his diehard fans, and he's kind of winning the crowd back already. I find not being involved with Trick, which I think is working brilliantly for him. And he just played the role perfectly as a special guest referee. I always loved special guest referee, and we've not. I think I saw something, or Cole or someone said we've not had one or that kind of match for a long time. And it's just it's so much fun. He can play off against both people. He goes in, and he was fair. He was down the middle with both Cody and Gunther. We had a good back and forth with the two. They have to eventually leads to the shoving and all that stuff with the referee and everything else. The ending was a bit fishy, and then Gunther. So Cody, got the pin on Gunther initially, but Gunther's foot was under the ropes again. So kind of call back to previous times this happened, and then they weren't having that. They were fed up with what's going on. So then they restarted the match. Both went at it again. It looked like maybe Gunther could have won. There's a bit of issues there. Sami got involved once again. There was a quick, fast count, and then Gunther kind of got screwed over again. It was inevitable this was going to happen with Sami's involvement, and I'm glad he's been pushed this way. I was a bit worried after the Trick stuff. He would just kind of trickle down again. It's obviously leading to a triple threat match at Night of Champions. So kind of on Sami's turf. He always gets a big pop in Saudi Arabia because he just has that connection with the crowd. I'm kind of doing predictions a bit early, but I wouldn't be upset if Sami won there. I think it would be a huge pop. Everyone's been wanting him to be champ for so long. I think this would be a good opportunity for that. I don't think he'll have a lengthy title run or more than one. I think he may follow suit. I could be wrong, and I hope I am, but I think he'll kind of have that big moment and then possibly lose at SummerSlam. But for me, it would make sense. A couple month title run, maybe lose to Cody again or someone else. But for me, that would be the best move for that. So I'm really, as I said, I'm enjoying that feud. Gunther thought he was going to have Sami on side. Sami is that kind of grey area at the minute, so he was able to, work with both. Cody is still his friend, so yeah, that stuff's looking really good. Following that match with Priest and Truth, tag team champs versus the MFTs. I must admit, I Truth and Priest are great. It's again the tag team division just doesn't seem to. It's weird. They have a lot of matches. They do have a lot of and they defend it quite a bit. Again, my preference is the women's tag team. They seem to put a lot more focus on that. And then they've obviously got the Vision kind of holding titles there. I have to remind myself who the champion is with the men's tag team quite often. It's just not great. It's just there's nothing overly memorable, but there's so much good tag team talent in the roster. You've got people like Fraxium sat there, and they're not doing a great deal. I know Penta and Phoenix aren't together, but they're there. Even the Usos, like I don't remember the last time the Usos had they don't utilize the tags that they've got there enough, in my opinion. Again, the match was fine, but that felt like a secondary to what the real story was. And the real story being Solo's loyalty to the bloodline, the MFTs. Like there's this kind of debate going on as to where his allegiance lie. Jacob Fatu reached out to Solo earlier in the night, and then he kind of accidentally cost Tama and Tongaloa, not Tongaloa, the big tall bastard, the champs. He cost him the title. And what was really interesting was, he, saying sorry, but instead of them coming to Solo, they turn their back on him and walk away. So that dynamic of the bloodline, how much of the bloodline I really dislike, and I'm, again, positive podcast, but I can't ignore the fact that we're back in this bloodline circle. This element, if it's like a more of a bigger civil war, I know they've tried that before with the MFTs versus the bloodline, that would be interesting. That could be something I could get behind. What I cannot get behind and what I'm terrified of is going to be some mega NWO Wolfpack bloodline, just this big expansion of the bloodline where it just keeps growing. And I'm just think can't have them running the company again. I just think it just reeks of lack of creativity there. We had another match with Ricky Starks and Carmelo Hayes. There's not a lot to say about these matches because they're always amazing. They're always consistently good. They're both Starks and Mello, both incredible athletes, both future world champions. They just have great chemistry together. And seeing these back and forths is always really fun. Starks stealing the win, I thought was a nice touch. So, a lot of people think Mello and Trick is that inevitable match that's going to happen. I thought maybe another triple threat, but kind of having that with the world title as well. We can't have too many of those. I think maybe in SummerSlam, I don't know. I think it needs to be Trick and Mello in the end. Maybe even Mello takes it off Trick. I don't know. Trick is so hot right now. It's tricky. See what I did? It's difficult to see how they can give the title to Mello without people turning on him because they love Trick so much. Like he's incredible and he's so over. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Having Starks as a buffer now makes sense as well. But it's just how they get to that Mello Trick thing that everybody wants to see. We had the semi-finals of the King of the Ring with Javon and Jay. There's no question that Javon Evans is not the future of this company. He is just there's nothing like him. People compared him to Kofi, and Kofi was incredible. Javon is very different in his style. Yes, they're both high flyers, but Javon is just he's very unique. I find with his style of wrestling, his athleticism, how his jumps and him getting bouncy and all this stuff. And as well his connection to the crowd. He's very young, and he's got a lot of kids will love him. A lot of adults will love him as well. Like he's just got there's a lot to him. And again, he held his own against Jey Uso, who he's been in Jey as a veteran at this point, and he former world champion. He's got all these accolades, and he more than held his own. And you saw Jey show that respect to him afterwards. Like, they really put on a really banger of a match. And Jey Uso winning it makes sense. You depending on the King of the Ring, and has always been a place to elevate people, and new wrestlers. Sometimes it's used as a creative tool. We're seeing that with the women Queen of the Ring a little bit as well. It's to put Jay versus Oba. It's hinting at Oba going after Roman. Again, I'm jumping around, but the likelihood will be, well, what I presume it's either going to be a clean match and Oba wins outright, or Brock Lesnar's going to screw over Oba, and then we'll have Jay and his decision whether he goes after Roman or if he goes after Cody or maybe even Sammy. But there'll be then that it's sprouting off lots of stories that all make sense. Jay getting fed up with Roman and going after him would be a nice touch because it'd be a different dynamic to what it usually is. At the same time, what I would love is Oba winning at Night of Champions and doing the doubleheader at SummerSlam. Retiring Brock night 1, becoming champion night 2, just elevate him. How amazing would that be if he was, he came in at Royal Rumble into the main roster, and within the short time he's then retires Brock Lesnar and beats Roman Reigns. Like that. Talk about building a new star. That is a made man. Like that's for me the way they should go. But we'll see if that happens. Main event match was Charlotte versus Liv Morgan for the Queen of the Ring semi-finals. Charlotte's still in this kind of feud with Jade Cargill and the baddies. Alexa Bliss gets involved as well. When Charlotte's coming out to the ring to make her entrance, she's attacked. She has a back and forth with Jade and Michin and B-Fab. Then she's attacked quite brutally. They go after her leg. Charlotte sells the crap out of it. She's again one of the best. She's a multi-time champ for a reason. She comes out. She looked like the biggest badass in this match. She sold her leg throughout, but carried on with the offense against Liv. Liv was the perfect heel in this spot in that she, targeted the leg. She also just, kept laughing at Charlotte and picked her spots. Like the chemistry there is great as well. Charlotte fought her ass off and still lost. Like even, at the end outside, she's just like struggling to get in the ring, keeps fighting, tells the refs to, bugger off basically. Alexa, gets her love from Alexa. She still loses, but it just was a great performance for her. And I think, and loads of people have said it, since Charlotte aligned with Alexa, it's completely changed perception of her. She's just not this unstoppable woman who gets handed everything. She's now had to fight her way back to stuff. And I just think, similarly with Roman, how I feel is that Roman not in the title picture is the best version of him when he's the champion on top and he's got nothing to fight for. He falls into old patterns, which is what happened again. But yeah, Charlotte and Liv, really fun match. And I think again, Liv winning makes sense because it feeds into the feud with the potential build to Raquel and Roxanne. And the fact that Liv is kind of people questioning, why is the champ going to Queen of the Ring? This happened so many times before when a champ has entered a competition. Brock Lesnar did it at the Royal Rumble. Why was he involved? But he was involved because it elevated Drew and Keith Lee at the time and other people. He's used as a tool. That's what the champion should be there for. And what bigger way if, Io beats Liv because she's already beaten a champion, then she gets another shot to do again. Like, it makes sense. And even if it didn't, even if it was Liv and she became double champ, she's then got more ammunition against Raquel and Roxanne. There's reasons for it. So for me, it's fine. I've got no issue with it being there. But yeah, overall, SmackDown really enjoyable. Again, sets the pieces for Night of Champions. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week. Now that we've done the semi-finals and things. So yeah, really enjoyed this week's SmackDown. And I would say over the last few weeks, it's got much better as a product. So Monday Night Raw emanated from my hometown, place I was born, London, England. Always the best crowds, in my opinion. I absolutely love going to the UK shows, seeing wrestling shows here. And yes, we need that WrestleMania because talk about the French and all the other places, all the other countries. The UK would absolutely absorb WrestleMania because it's great. It has such a long fan base here, and even really casual fans would absolutely love the WrestleMania here, and I think it would absolutely work. AEW have already proven that it would work by selling out Wembley, so yeah, it's no options. Anyway, Monday Night Raw opens up with my man Obafemi. He's very quickly become one of my favorites in the industry. The way they presented him, the way he presents himself, is just spectacular. Oba comes out as a semi-final, as a finalist. Sorry, for the King of the Ring. Does his beautiful strut. Gives it the talk, saying he's going to win. He's going to go for one of the champions. Is it going to be Roman Reigns? Is it going to be Cody Rhodes? Most people want it to be Roman. That's the better story. That's the thing that makes sense. That will be the thing that elevates him more. However much I am a big Cody fanboy and don't like Roman as much, I can see how that would absolutely elevate him more. He's giving his spiel. Jey Uso comes out again to a huge pop. When people give Jey crap, I don't buy it. I've been to shows where everyone is losing their minds because Jey Uso's there. You can see it on TV. You can see how it translates with fans. Yes, he might have his flaws. I have no issues with Jey Uso. I think he's a great addition. He kind of says the same thing, calls a shot on Oba, saying he's going to go off to kind of beat Cody. Oba has some great lines saying, you're not the cousin I want, and really puts Jey down. Um, it's just, yeah, Ober's so good at just deflecting everything. And this is what I mean. He's so good in the ring. He's got such an aura. He's great on the mic. Like he's just yeah, man's unstoppable. So that match will be interesting to see Jay and Ober. It's nice to see Ober. Like he's obviously had that thing with Brock, but then he kind of went mid cardish again with who he's wrestling to then be back into fighting main event people. The sky's the limit, and there's so many options for him left. Like it's he's just beginning. You know, imagine him and Gunter, him and Roman, him and Cody, him and Randy. You know, the Seth Rollins, like Bron Breakker. There's so many people. Jacob Artu. Like, there's so much to get out of him to put on incredible matches. And like, yeah, can't wait to see what he's going to do. Mentioned already. I don't know how it's going to play. I would love to see him do the double header at SummerSlam, really elevate his stock there. But could Brock come and mess that up for him? Most likely. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. First match of the night, we have the women's tag team titles, Brie and Paige. Paige obviously back in her home country. Got a huge pop there, quite rightly deserved, versus Bayley and Lyra. Bayley and I were really bigging this up beforehand, saying, you know, this is like our last chance. You know, we have to get this done. It felt like a lot of tension was being built onto this. The match itself was fantastic. I think Paige and Brie have really chemistry with a lot of the women, and again, I can't fault them. They've been defending non-stop, and they've been having really fun matches. Bayley and I are obviously always really great. This is, and I've gone on record saying I'm not, and I have never been a fan of the Bellas. I will eat my words here. Brie Bella, because particularly I always felt Nikki was better. Brie Bella has, this is the best I've ever seen her. She just seems so smooth, just seems to be technically sound. Like, I don't know what's changed with her. I think she is doing incredible work, the best work of her career. I don't know if it's taken away a lot of the big promos and they're just going in and competing. Like, it's so good to see, and it's interesting to know how it would have been with Nikki there. They've been more heelish or whatever? I don't know. But having Paige there changed that dynamic, and I think they're both working really well. I don't know what the end goal is for them. I don't know if Nikki's going to come back and take Paige's spot or what, but whatever they're doing and what they're doing now is just fantastic. And as I said, the match itself, really fun. The other stand up for me is Lyra. Lyra, and she always is. She's so technically sound, and she can control a match just amazing, like perfectly. I just think she's got a great look. Unfortunately, she lost. She got taken out by Paige with I think it was the Rampage. And the big, you know, the match was good, but then the big surprise is, you know, the cameras stay on Lyra and Bayley after being defeated, after putting all that pressure on themselves. I thought, okay, Bayley's going to turn back to that split personality thing, and that's it. She's going to turn. Was I wrong? Jeez, it was Lyra that turned on Bayley, and like, she didn't just take her out; she went all out. Like, she threw her on the ropes, on her neck and stuff. It just looked absolutely brutal. Like, I couldn't. Yeah, I was not expecting a Lyra to see. Imagine Lyra as a heel is going to be very interesting because she's very bubbly and very light and very fun. To see her as a heel, I don't know how it's going to work, but like the thing she did after, and like I think Jackie Redmond tried to talk to her. She was like, just gave it a look, and she's like, "No, I'm not having it." I think she's got it in her to go heel, and I think what I love for Bayley for this is because I've been a Bayley fan since like NXT day one. She's been in this kind of tag team bubble for a while. I love her as a solo, you know, a singles superstar. She's got something really meaty to go into now. She's been betrayed again by someone else, someone she really cared about. Like, it's going to be a lot of, and the two in terms of matches will put on really fun technical matches as well. So yeah, this is a big plus, I'd say, for both. Following from that match, we had Chad Gable coming out. I don't know who. I don't know if it's the guys who always do the music. I don't know if they're the same people, and they get a lot of crap for their terrible music because a lot of the music in WWE is just arse. It's not. It's so generic, right? Unless you're of a certain level of fame or celebrity, there you usually just get this generic music. I love Chad Gable's new music. When he came out, I was like, oh my god, this music's awesome. And he got people, like, there's bits where people can join in, which is great. It felt like it was like big, like 80s action movie kind of vibes. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It just felt like very like hot America 80s action. and just like really fast paced. It's really, I just, yeah, absolutely loved it. And Gable's whole thing now is just, you know, he got a big pop when he came out. He's always been an incredible athlete. Again, I've watched him back in NXT days as well. Um, but like he's on this kind of apology tour, and it does seem genuine. He's on this apology tour, and inevitably it was kind of being hinted at. He asked American Alpha Academy, sorry, to come out. So Otis, Tozawa, and Maxine. They come out. Gable gives a really emotional, empowering speech to them, to Otis in particular, saying, you know, friend of 20 years, he held his kids. You know, he's so sorry. He just wants some forgiveness. Um, Otis dwells it over. He apologizes to all of them, Maxine as well. Otis dwells it over. We think he's going to get an apology, and he's going to accept the apology. Sorry, and then Maxine stops it. She stands in the way, calls out Chad for his past behavior, how he left them in the pit of isolation, just to fend for themselves in the industry. She's not wrong. She's 100% right. There's a lot of this going around. LA Knight's doing it with his bloodline stuff. He's not wrong at all. She's got 100% right. She shouldn't forgive him straight away. None of them should. Um, and it makes sense. It shouldn't just be a yeah, I'm sorry. All the stuff he did for years, a couple of years now, the disrespect to the Luchas, how he pushed out Otis and them. You know, we lost the whole Otis Gable like fight thing that would, I think WWE dropped the ball on that one. Their redemption and forgiveness will be just as powerful, I think, but it needs to happen slowly. So I'm glad I'm glad it's not a quick, yeah, that's it, we're done. And obviously we see Maxine with Austin Theory quite a bit. So there's stuff with the vision there. I don't know if it's going to lead to Chad's, you know, he's going to try for weeks and weeks to try and get forgiveness. And then there's going to be tension between the Alpha Academy. Maxine will get closer to the Vision. Maybe the Vision will attack Otis and Tozawa, and that's when Chad makes a save. You know, that in itself would just be perfectly built up. And then we then get Chad going against the Vision. We could possibly have Chad versus Bron Breakker. Like that, you know, that's very similar styles, very similar intensity. I think that would be amazing. Like all these pieces fit so well together. That, you know, that's not what I'm kind of hoping is going on. But you know, Chad has to earn their respect. He has to earn their love back. You know, he made mistakes and he's aware of it as well, which I love. He's very vulnerable right now. So yeah, that whole thing I just think worked to a T. Next match, Dragon Lee versus Ethan Page. Now both of these two again talked about Javon Oba being the future. These two are right up there. You know, Dragon Lee he's just been kind of toyed with and painted out to be the next Rey Mysterio for a long time. And he gets some momentum and it kind of fizzles away. But I just think he's so underrated. He's one of my favorites in the industry right now because he's so quick. He's got power. He's got technique. Again, he can talk on the mic. He's got great look. There's so much positive around him. Like he's just as fast as like Bron Breakker and stuff. The guy would just launch himself around the ring. Doesn't seem to care about his own body. But he just manages to land and finesse all these moves. I just think it's amazing. And then on the flip side, you've got Ethan Page, who like he's easily becoming one of the top heels. He's so good in his persona with trying to be a heel. He knows how to work the crowd. He knows how to work wrestlers. He can manipulate his face to be this like arrogant, you know, dickhead basically, and he just fits in perfectly. So them two going out is really great. There's a lot of good coming in the industry in WWE with up and comers, and they need to have that scope. And I'm glad to see that's what's happening. Ethan Page ended up getting the win, so he's likely going to go in towards the IC title kind of picture, which again works perfectly for him. If he won, I wouldn't be upset. I love Penta more than anyone. I want Penta to reign forever, but Ethan would be a good fit as a heel champion anyway. Next, we had Io Sky and Liv Morgan, so with the Queen of the Ring kind of back and forth. Io comes out saying she's going to cement her position as Queen of the Ring. Again, would be a great spot for her. Would she go against Rhea? Would she go against Liv? I don't know. Either one makes sense. Liv comes out, you know, gives Io a load of crap, saying she's going to go after Rhea, her best friend. She takes a cheap shot at Io, and then Io takes her out pretty quickly. You know, it was very short and sweet, but these two will put on a fantastic show at Queen of the Ring. And the thing I like is I'm not sure who's going to win. They could go either way, as I said. And either one I think would work. Obviously, I want Io to win and possibly face Rhea. I think that would be interesting. But either way, I think it's going to be a good match and a good result regardless. Following that, we have LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso. So this is a kind of tension that's been building ever since WrestleMania. Really, LA Knight had his beef with Bloodline. He sought kind of allies with the Usos post WrestleMania. It kind of started going downhill because Uso's still aligned with Roman. Like again, LA Knight, everything he's saying is true. He's for me, if personally speaking, for me and similar people think the same way, the Bloodline stuff is just done to death. I've had enough of it now. Like, can we get on something else? He feels screwed over by every single person in the Bloodline. Like he's calling out Adam Pearce a lot, which I just think is great. It's just he's doing brilliant work, and he's got himself in that top position. What was interesting, the match itself was good. I think Jimmy again is super underrated. Of the two brothers, Jimmy for me is more charismatic, more funny, more naturally funny person, just as good in the ring. Like it'd be great to see him give a similar position. What was the interesting part of the match was, it's kind of getting to the end. Solo comes out after being kind of warned off from Jacob again, after saying to stay out. I think he called his shot on SmackDown, said he's going you mess with his family, he's going to mess with yours. He comes out, sees Jimmy, sees his older brother, smiles at him, gives him the Samoan spike, gives LA Knight the win. Like everyone was confused, and Knight again sold it so well. It was just like, did that just happen? I can't, maybe I'm wrong about this. For me, that element makes the Bloodline storyline somewhat more interesting. I still just fed up with it. I want to see the Usos in tag matches. I want to see Roman climbing for the title or putting over other people in non-title matches. Something that's not around the title, something that's personal, or that's the thing I find is missing from him. This that personal beef with someone, that personal storyline. That's what I want from him. Obviously I want LA Knight to win the title and everything else, but like for the Bloodline stuff, having that, we've had Civil War type things before, but to on a much bigger scale with the MFTs and Solo now going after it, like I think that makes it more interesting for me. That being said, I'd still rather it not be Bloodline related, but if we're going to have it, then at least have something new and different. Main event of Raw was the Vision versus the Street Profits. It felt special this because it was a main event. You did have the feeling that the Profits were going to come out on top finally and get that tag team gold, which they deserve. All four got to show off their talents. every single one of them got to show off what they can do. It worked really well as a match. Bron Breakker showed off his power. So did Dawkins. Speed was shown by Montez Ford. Austin Theory showed what good heel work he does, as well as that athleticism. It all worked perfectly. And we even had Logan Paul at ringside. And again, can't fault the guy. He has a messed up arm. He's still there, kind of getting involved, which I don't think WWE do enough. I know Chelsea Green like to be involved more, but I feel like they should do that. Just because someone's injured, why do they have to be off TV? Doesn't always make sense to me. And then it got to a kind of climax point. Logan Paul tries to slip brass knucks to I think Austin Theory is trying to give it to, and then all of a sudden Joe Hendry's music hits, so we've not seen him for after a beatdown. He gets a big pop in the UK, chases off Logan Paul. Seth Rollins comes out, hits Theory with the brass knucks. Bron Breakker chases after him, leaving his partner because he's overcome with rage just seeing Rollins. Leaves his partner in the ditch. Street Profits capitalize. We have new champions. It was just the chaotic hecticness of the kind of messy main events like that. I absolutely love because it just seemed so chaotic, but it's timed beautifully into perfection. And Profits getting the victory, particularly Rollins helping, I think is a nice touch. But like they're so overdue, and we have a legitimate tag team as champions once again. And I feel like that's been missing for so long. We don't even have it on SmackDown. We've got Damo and Truth. They're not bad, but it's not a legitimate tag team. We need more of that to elevate that. We need to keep it separate. And yeah, I just thought it worked so well, and it built up to we've got Rollins and Breakker in the cage match. Like it was perfectly done. And I just think overall, Monday Night Raw, I think, was a real positive. And again, building up nicely to Night of Champions. So that's the review for Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. We've got Night of Champions coming up soon. We've got one more SmackDown before Night of Champions. So I'll do a Night of Champions review as well. I'll try and give predictions beforehand. But yeah, as I said, I'm back now. I'm gonna try my hardest to keep this more regular. I'm gonna start focusing on clips and all the other content creation nonsense that everybody has to do and play the game to get anywhere with this stuff, because yeah, that's what it's become. But I'm also looking at um, I don't want to call them interviews, but just chatting, sitting down and having conversations with people that enjoy wrestling. I've got family members who do, got friends. I know some reputable people that other people might know. It's a very kind of lazy, spoilery hint thing that I know some wrestlers, but I know some wrestlers that are interested in talking as well. I also want to look at local indie wrestlers and stuff as well, not just kind of profilic ones that people know, and do that. And yeah, just try and focus on. As I said, it's hard. I'm a parent and I'm a husband and I work a stressful job. Trying to fit this in is a nice relief for me, but it's just can be tricky. But yeah, it's something I'm going to really expand on. And as I said, I really want to get some guests. Again, I don't want to call them the guests. I just want to get people that love wrestling and talk about, or people that don't like wrestling and just talk about the chaos of it all and how much fun it is. So yeah, we're going to do more of that stuff. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Until next time.